trip now, more and more, will be multimodal. So it's almost like, I feel it's like a tree. So every root hair is where a nutrient starts its journey. It consolidates all the way till it becomes the trunk of the tree. And then again it spreads out to each leaf where the photosynthesis happens. And this is, I see what the transportation network being, everybody starts from their home and then we consolidate, and this could be by walking, by in the denser cities, by electric scooters, bikes, maybe these automated cars that then bring you onto a trunk. In the main trunk, it should be a shared platform because that's what makes it, should be public transportation because that's what makes it efficient. And then the last mile can again be distributed. So, and this I think thanks to technology, thanks to EVs, this is happening in a big way. Like basically, it's going to be one big soup and everybody will have slightly different ingredients in their soup. But transportation is going to be nothing like this one car that you pull out of your driveway and you drive to your office building and you get up and take the elevator. So that, hopefully from my perspective, is gone.
Absolutely. Oleg, I want to ask you, uSky DMCC is at the forefront of digital transformation. What emerging technologies do you think will have the most significant impact on urban mobility in your view? And if you can share how we can ensure they are implemented in a way that they benefits all the residents here.
Actually, we are not in digital transformation. We are in general and total transformation.
Oh. Okay.
So it means that what we are trying to introduce completely new transportation industry branch. Because what's happening now, to be honest, it's more looks like that we are doing something in order to do something, rather than to reach the result. Look, we are switching to EV vehicles. Now everybody telling, oh, let's switch to EV vehicles. Let's assume that God listens to us and decides to give us this option. So now we are all driving petrol vehicles. Tomorrow we get up and we have Tesla cars. Will it solve traffic jams or not? Now we are staying in traffic jam in Tesla, in petrol vehicles. Tomorrow we will stay in traffic jam in Tesla cars. So it will not solve the problem. Second, traffic accidents. Now 1,300,000 people are killed in traffic accidents every year in this planet. Just imagine, we have clear genocide of humanity. Each year, almost 1.5 million people killed. Now we are driving electric vehicle. Will it solve the problem? Will it solve drunk driving? Will it solve sleeping in the car? No. So it means that in order to solve the problem, we have to do completely renovated approach that we don't do. Look at the electric vehicle. It is the same car. It is the same car with the same tires that occupies the same place on the road and that moves the same number of people. Where is the innovation? In kind of energy. But even electricity is not given us free. We are burning coal in the power station at the end of the day. And it's very arguable what gives more emission, to be honest. So it means that what we are doing, we are introducing what we call street transport, where we are moving the transport to the second level. And our transport, as we consider, this is the real innovation. It's electrical by default, but it is sustainable not because it is electrical. It is sustainable because it consumes energy 5 times less than similar electric car on the road. It's very simple. It is safe. Why? Because when all transport in future cities, definitely it should have dedicated lines. There should not be pedestrians crossing the road, children running the road, and other things. And for this we have to have dedicated trajectory. Look at this car, with all my respect. It's autonomous car. You will see it on the road, in the traffic jam, in the existing traffic? No, never. Why we are deceiving ourselves? So that is why, from my point of view, we should forget old approaches. We should switch to real innovations and not to do just simulation of innovation.
Monica, this brings me to you. You know, data has been said as a differentiator in the newer vehicles. And as the director of the Research Center for Interacting Urban Networks, what key trends do you see emerging in the data being generated by the smart city transportation systems? And can that optimize mobility and improve residents' quality of life, address some of the issues which we mentioned?
You're right, there's a lot of buzz about data and instrument in cities. So before we go there, I want to emphasize collecting data for the sake of it won't help anyone, right? What helps is the insights that we extract out of that data. And for that, we need to integrate the data. A lot of the data remains in silos because it's being collected by many different operators that don't share it. Now, it is crucial to integrate that data so we can adopt a holistic perspective and understand how the different components affect each other. So that means the physical components, the infrastructure, but also the social components, the way we behave, the travel choices we're making. This is crucial to then understand how we're using the system, how we're using the existing infrastructure, so we can develop strategies that or other multimodal transportation, for example, to address the needs and improve the quality or the operations of the existing infrastructure. But we need to also understand human behavior, our travel choices, so we can tailor our solutions to the actual needs of the population, which are different here and in Europe, in the US, they're different, right? So data is giving us access to all those aspects as long as we integrate it.
So Raji, a lot of innovation happening in the logistics sector. I mean, would you completely agree to this point, or do you have any different point of view on this? What Oleg mentioned.
On the contrary, I agree with everything that was said here. The purpose is not the electrification of fleets. It's not moving from one type of a car to another type of a car. The purpose is reducing movement. And the minute you start looking at reducing movement, this is more of efficiencies, more of technology, and data is there. Every single courier company or every single logistics company has all the data that's required. The issue is sharing this data and making sure that there is an entity that would look at this data and see, okay, in Dubai, I know now in UAE there are around 95,000 motorbikes delivering stuff all over. So I'm sure if there is some sort of an efficiency model that everybody looks at, we might reduce these to a 70,000 or a 60,000. So technology is extremely important, but the most important, before that, we need to look at why are we delivering, why am I asking for a shirt from Amazon to be delivered in 30 minutes? Do I need physically that shirt? It's behavioral. There is a lot of behavioral issues that also drive into traffic congestion, drives into more driving and utilizing, within transport, where you can utilize proper channels to do that. So you don't need an Apple Watch in 20 minutes. That's beyond imagine. You can receive it tomorrow morning. But because of such behaviors, for me, if somebody buys something from Amazon, I need to deliver on their behalf in 30 minutes. That's one van that's going to drive from point 1 to point 2, deliver that shipment and come back. While if it's a regular delivery, this guy might carry 20, 30, 50 shipments to deliver the same route with the same carbon emissions, same diesel, and the same traffic jams that they are going through. So it's technology, but also behavior and planning and making sure that we are doing things that are required to be done, not we are doing things because we want to do them.
Can I add something? Building on his idea, he said we're not moving vehicles for the sake of moving things. And when it goes to passenger transportation, it's the same. A lot of emphasis has been placed in improving the movement of vehicles. We should be thinking about the movement of people, not the movement of vehicles. And what are the best solutions to move people, not necessarily to move vehicles. And that again brings me back to the idea of multimodal transportation. Higher capacity vehicles, faster vehicles, etc., where you put a lot of people together. Again, our goal is not to free up the streets for more cars to be added on.
Whether you want to,
Yeah. So I have a rubric in my mind, which is you can take the car out of carbon, so personal transportation out of the emission mix, or you can take carbon out of the car. And I think we are too focused on the second one. We are too focused on taking the carbon out of the car, which is electrification, but we are not doing enough to take the car out of carbon. So there should be single occupancy passenger trips, personal vehicle trips that need to be substituted, that just need to go away. Whether it becomes a trip not taken, whether it becomes a non-motorized trip, whatever it is, that needs to, and there's not enough work or not enough thinking going on in that. The second is becoming a substitute for the first.
I'll continue with this, with Prajal. As a Sustainability Director of Metropolitan Transportation Authority, how do you see public transportation systems adapting to the needs of smart cities and when it comes to ensuring that these systems are sustainable and environmentally friendly? A little broad question, but then you're...
Sure. So, I think you're asking me something, but I will answer something else first and then come back to what you're asking. So, public transportation, even the most carbon emitting, say an old diesel technology bus kind of public transportation, is still by and large on a per passenger kilometer basis much more efficient than the single. As long as you're consolidating people together, that act alone makes it sustainable. But then there are a lot of good community collaterals, so densification happens, other forms of non-motorized transportation such as bicycling, such as walking become more viable, they become more practical if there is good public transportation. So public transportation has to be front and center in the middle of any sustainability plan. Now, I think what you were asking me is what is public transportation doing to clean up its own act? And there I think one of the biggest revolutions going on right now is bus electrification. There's not a single public transportation agency anywhere in the world that is not trying to phase out. In fact, you cannot buy bus charging infrastructure, electric buses, you can't buy them fast enough. Right now, if you were a manufacturer of electric buses or electric bus related infrastructure, you would be a very happy man. Because every agency is transforming, and these, typically the bus fleets are a big portion of our emissions, between 25 to 50% or more, and I'm talking about those that also have electric rail, let's say. Often public transportation agencies are only bus, and the electrification will help a lot. But again, if that electrification comes at the cost of reducing the number of buses, because these electric buses are more expensive, or because they're being hard to buy right now because of such a large demand, that is not good. The presence of public transportation supersedes. Go back to my matrix, that question I asked, taking the car out of carbon versus taking the carbon out of the car. Taking the car out of carbon is much, much more important.
Oleg, you want to add on that?
Yes, I agree completely with everybody, and I just want to underline that public transport is the core of any transport, definitely. Definitely we have to change a little bit the level of acceptance of public transport, because till now the users of public transport, they are more considered as losers. So we need to bring public transport appearance to the second level, where it's not shameful to use the public transport like it is in many places nowadays. So this is the first challenge, I think. And of course the second challenge, public transport by itself should be the solution to problems, but not it is the reason for problems. Like everybody now is trying to implement BRT system. But BRT system is its solution, bus rapid transit, where they just take line from the road and allocate for buses. Okay, till certain extent the solution, but what's about other cars? So again, what is my message? It is that we have to go to new innovative transport technologies rather than switching the kind of energy in the vehicles.
But then every region is a different journey altogether in smart cities. I mean, what is smart city for one particular region is completely different for another region altogether, right? I mean, there's no one size fits all. So, I mean, my next question is also on potential challenges that smart cities might face in terms of mobility. I asked this question because in 2015 there's a council called as Smart Cities Council, Global Council. At that point of time, they had executed $3 trillion project. So our firm had brought them to India, and then we had done tons of events, and the government there had launched 100 smart cities project as well. We monitored that for 4.5 years, and nothing much has moved. I mean, a lot of players, private players have moved out. Government was there. A lot of governments have lost interest. Governments also changed. What I'm trying to say is that I think it's also about which region is in what journey. In Europe itself, in Eastern Europe and Western Europe, there's a lot of difference.
This is, by the way, one more problem. That when we talk about smart cities, when we talk about innovative technologies, when we are talking about sustainability, are we talking about rich countries only? Or developing countries as well? Because nowadays, 99% of technologies that we see everywhere, they are very expensive. And again, we are dividing the world into poor and rich. But when we talk about, for example, climate issue, we cannot divide the atmosphere. So it means that if we come with new technology, it should be affordable to everybody, or else there is no sense in implementing it.
So in a country like UAE, what are the challenges, Monica, do you see as in implementing some of these strategies we are talking about on smart cities?
I think one of the challenges is changing the mindset. What Oleg said about the negative stigma associated with public transportation. Now, this is true in many places, but it's not true in all places around the world. I have lived in countries where public transportation is second to none, and everyone would take it, and everyone would share it, the CEO and the cashier at McDonald's. So there is opportunity to do that. However, it took generations and a lot of investment and political will. I'm sorry. So one of the issues with making public transportation from a center of any transportation network is that if you don't have the demand, it's hard to justify its existence. So there's no political will to invest in something that doesn't have demand. However, if we don't invest on it, we will never have the demand that it needs because it will never become competitive. So we need to make sure that message gets across. We need to invest in public transportation services.
Chị không nói chuyện được đâu, chỉ có quay để cho mọi người coi thôi, clip bình thường thôi, không dám nói chuyện đâu.
So that brings me to my second question, which is around policy making, and how do you see? And I want to have comments from probably all the panelists. How can public and private stakeholders effectively collaborate to ensure that smart city mobility systems are inclusive and equitable? I mean, inclusive is the in word these days. It's a favorite word. A lot of people talk about. It gets mentioned in policy documents also. But you guys are experts, so I would like to hear from you that how it is happening. Is there any case studies also if you can share on that as well?
Can I start? And please. I actually want to follow up on what Monica just said about the quality of the public transportation.
Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So my thought on this is like it's a multi-generational strategy. So when you first build it, you ask for example. So in the United States, for instance, Los Angeles is a very car-centric city. Everybody drives cars. Everybody has gleaming big cars. So they built a
Tao sắp sửa hết pin rồi, này chết dở.
And the joke was that it was a subway that went from nowhere to nowhere. But once 30 years passes,
Chị còn có 10% pin nữa này.
Somewhere gets up and moves to nowhere.
Mấy thằng kia còn pin không?
And then you have the density that starts to support businesses, that starts to support other services, hospitals, entertainment, etc. So I think one important thing, and the only way to do this is to do this gradually, little by little, all the time, so that it's not a step function, so that the curve is smooth. And so, for instance, vendors know that there will be orders placed for vehicles, there will be orders placed for track, for infrastructure, etc. It's not that you won't do anything for 30 years, and suddenly there'll be this huge glut of orders which nobody will be able to meet, or there'll be a big market imbalance. Now, the other thing you asked was, so in terms of policy, I think, is to do this gradually, do this uniformly.
Máy chị hết pin rồi, gần hết pin rồi, còn 10 phút, quên, còn có 10% nữa thôi.
Develop and things all according to a plan that is already there.
Yên tâm mấy máy quay.
There was one other thing that you asked.
Public and private sector
Toàn máy hết pin thôi.
True collaboration, I mean.
So there actually I see a lot of hope because in this sort of multimodal, every bit of transportation being every trip being
máy
made
cộng
of
còn pin
2 or
không?
3 different
Máy cộng còn pin
components.
không?
Some of those components, such
Hết
as
rồi,
bike
hết
share
pin rồi.
systems, such as scooter share systems, those which once upon a time would have been a public sector thing or made you could expect it fairly.
May quá, máy này còn pin đúng
is
không?
already happening almost entirely 100% in the private
Đầu
sector.
hết đầu, khổ
These are
ghê.
all franchises. These are all there's no public funds being.
Yên tâm, vẫn còn một máy nữa, vẫn còn pin.
I also feel that a lot of the new methods for raising revenues, such as congestion pricing, other kinds of tolling, those are also very rich for public-private kind of things in some places. Less so in others. I think in a legacy situation such as Europe or the United States, they will probably just it'll follow because there's a legacy, there's a history of these things going on. Whereas
tí nữa lên
I
trên
think
xe
in Asia,
sạc pin.
in the Middle East, it will be possible to try newer models of financing, newer structuring models. So, but I think that in general, there is a lot of potential for PPP right now in the transportation sector.
Rajiv, your point of view from, and especially focusing on this region itself.
Well, actually, to start with, public-private partnerships should be built at the beginning to look at why am I moving from point 1 to point 2. So governments need to start automating all their transactions. So I don't need to go to a ministry to stamp a paper. Banks need to automate. This we see in UAE, everything almost is automated. But in general, when you automate all these, you don't need to look too much at the transport itself because you eliminate the cause. So it's the cause and not the result. When we talked about electrification of fleets, that's the result. We are focusing only on reducing the carbon. We are not focusing on why are we generating the carbon from the beginning. So public-private partnership should focus on eliminating the source rather than resolving an issue by replacing the fuel into EV or into hydrogen. So automating most of the services will help a lot in not moving from one place to another. So during COVID, you can finish your PhD while sitting at home. While before that, you needed to go to university every day and come back. All our kids went to school online, they didn't go there. So it proved that automation can help a lot in reducing the movements. And at a certain point in time, there was nobody who was allowed to move in the streets. And life just went on and nothing collapsed. So it's looking at the cause and putting the policies and the procedures from the cause point of view and not from a result point of view.
Monica, you want to add on that?
No, I fully agree. I think on the public-private partnerships, but also on the fact that this is a marathon. It requires vision and consistency over the years. It won't be, it won't change from one day to the next. So, and public-private partnerships can help with that and can help also with what you said before, identifying the journey of each individual place. You know, having the public and the private sector completely segregated or separated doesn't, what tends to do is import solutions and use the same solution everywhere from the private sector. That doesn't make sense. If we really want to change the perspective of people, the behavior of the users, then we need these partnerships that are tailored to the specific environment.
Right. Oleg, your point of view, and how we are missing the point on making it more inclusive and equitable. So any point of view on that as well?
Yes, I have a lot of points. We don't have
Please
time.
go ahead, we do have some time. Love to hear.
Points I have, we don't have time. Look, of course, I will tell you that due to my experience, because we are aggressively trying to pursue governments, municipalities to implement our new innovative technology. Still, I feel in other countries, in almost all countries, there is no other option than PPP. So it means that budget does not want to spend money for this, and everybody offers PPP. And of course, when we talk about private-public partnership, there is only one issue that is always, these are guarantees. Who will guarantee that this PPP will be profitable? Or else there is no sense of doing this PPP. So, and at this point, I think that if government and public transport, government and private organizations, they will find the connection points, then PPP is possible. If not, I don't think that it will happen or it will be happy, such partnership. But anyway, of course, there is huge potential for this.
Any good examples of PPP partnership which can be implemented here, or you see?
Yes, actually, I cannot disclose names and places, but I would say that, for example, in our technology, stations by itself, they can be incorporated in high-rise buildings. So, but station, this is the part of transport infrastructure. So, and if, for example, government gives land to private investor to build the high-rise building, it could be shopping mall, it could be office building, then it means that it's very easy to find private investor for such investment, because the nature of property with station allocated in it, it is very promising from ROI point. That footfall will be always there. This will be always point of attraction to people. So that is why, and it's very good response from the market to invest in such stations, for example.
Sure. Yeah, please.
So actually something that Oleg just said triggered a thought in my mind, which is not, it has nothing to do with it, but just use two words, mall and office. And this is a bit of a challenge now after COVID, because, and also with Amazon and so on, people are not being as physical as going to work, commuting every day. People are working from home. Certainly, we see in public transportation systems all over the world, the days that are immediately adjacent to the weekend. So in the West, that would be Friday and Monday, have remarkably lower attendance rates and ridership rates and so on. And similarly for malls, malls are almost like dying, or so I don't, in this instance, I don't have an answer. I don't have a crystal ball. I cannot predict the future, but I there are some fundamental shifts going on, which may not be bad, which actually from an environmental point of view and from other perspectives might be good, but things are moving and it's going to be quite different.
Perfect. I think at this juncture, let us take some audience questions. It has been a fantastic discussion so far.
Yeah. Question.
We would love to hear from you. It's time for your question. Before we start, let's follow some rules. We'd appreciate if you can keep
Có ai hỏi gì không
clear and
kìa?
concise and identify yourself and introduce yourself before asking the questions. Yeah, please.
Please feel free to ask questions. There's a microphone over there.
Okay. Anybody? Any questions?
No.
Please, sir, please.
Hi, my name is Ahmed. Thank you so much for this nice subject. So my question, whoever concerned, for UAE specifically, if we talk about the challenge and different than the other countries, what do you think the first and second hardest first and second hardest challenge that we are facing to reach the to improve the future mobility for smart cities?
Who would want to take this question?
Well,
Are you clear? Yeah.
let me start by saying I don't think the challenge is particularly different from many other countries, but we are in a car-centric society, and the first thing we need to change is that. But to change that, then we need to provide alternatives that are competitive with the car, and then it goes back to the whole conversation. So that's one challenge. Another challenge is weather that limits some of the things that we can do over some periods of the year. I was in a previous panel and someone said, and I think he was totally right, In other countries, they focus on the 6 months or 8 months of good weather. Here, we tend to focus on the 6 months of bad weather, right? We could focus on the winter time where we can do a lot of activities, etc. But I think that is indeed a challenge.
Actually, another challenge is changing behavior. People would love to go and buy a Superman or a huge car with 8 cylinders. I think behavior needs to be changed, and based on the changing of the behavior, definitely you will lower your movement time.
Absolutely. Anybody else?